I'm trying to all day, every day. I'm trying to collect universal examples. So there are all these like universal examples out there that I'm always trying to collect, and I just feel like every time I find one, I'm like, oh, that's so true, that's so true. So I have them all, and then now it's just a matter of, okay, when I hear somebody tell me a myth or truth, I can be like, okay, what's the universal example that's related to this?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what's happening.
If I think about creating like my universal examples,
Example.
yeah, bank. So I would literally write, imagine if you are, when you're in a
Maybe
debate
you should
or
make
you
one.
have. So how do you just write that? Like if you're in a debate with your biased mind,
Yeah,
how would you? It's hard to judge the debate.
you're not gonna. Yeah, you're not gonna. You can't find the unbiased answer
Mm-hmm.
if you already think you have the answer or something like that. Another one is like, yeah, the Simon Sinek one is like when is the exact date where when you fall in love with your wife? Like you don't know because you fall in love through over time through small, tiny,
Mm-hmm.
small little things. It's not a black and white. It's a gradient, right? Now that example can be used in multiple myth truth, right? I can say that about like, you know, people who think that you can build relationship overnight through you know, some retreat, some corporate
Mm-hmm.
retreat or something like that. I can use that example, or I can also use the example for people that don't believe in small talks, or I can also use it, for example, like if somebody's always like talking about efficiency and how important efficiency is, or like I can also use this, right? If somebody says, oh, like why remote work is so much better than you know going to the office. Well, when
Mm-hmm.
you're only doing remote work, it decreases those chances you're going to have in the conference room setting, or you're in the kitchen, you're talking to someone, where those little moments is where relationships are being built, right? So
Yeah.
once I have the universal example, I can fit it into multiple different myth, truth, lessons, however it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the universal examples are usually the ones where people never see that side.
So in that example, when we did a carousel about cuddling clients,
Hmm.
so the example was, would you say to your child, "You're perfect just the
Yeah,
way you are"? This is
yeah, something like that. The universal example is that if you spoil your child, they're not going to survive in the real world. Like they're going to be
Mhm,
too fragile for
mhm.
the real world. That's the universal example, right?
It looks like I don't have that muscle.
I can use that same example for people like, you know, like this is why anti-bullying policing you know, is not necessary. Like I think anti-bullying policy, like zero bullying policing, I don't think is a good thing because I feel like a little bit
Mhm.
of bullying is necessary in schools for kids to learn their social skills. Do you understand what I mean? So by make like maybe for that one, I'll give you example like this, right? Um, like zero bully policing is bullshit, or something like that, right? And I say, imagine you, um, like, imagine you live in a society where every child was immune from disease because they got immunized and not because they were exposed to the
Mhm.
germs,
Mhm.
but they were just like all kept in quarantine, right? As soon as new germ comes in, they're gonna get infected right away because their body is not, their immune system is not strong enough,
Mhm.
right?
Oh,
Like
they say, n- I've heard that, In America, before it was less people that were allergic to peanuts, but
Hmm.
after, because they were
Yeah,
exposed,
there's more people. Yeah,
because
yeah,
you
same.
have like
Well, they were less
environments
exposed,
without.
so that
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it actually because it turns out that there are a lot of babies who are allergic to peanuts, but they get over it because they keep eating peanuts.
yeah.
Do you understand of it? So, like the same thing with the immune system, right? So basically, I can use that as an example to be like, when you're getting, when you have a zero bully policy, you're basically softening everyone's immune system so that when they get out in the
Hmm.
real world, they're gonna get bullied like by a real bully. See, you see how we took a universal example and we turned the universal example into a. We found another universal example to show an example of that universal example.
So,
And that universal example, like you realize now can be used in so many things. For example, like if I say something like, if negative comments bother you, trigger you, the answer isn't to like turn off your comments or to to become safer because you're worried about negative comments or something like that,
mhm.
right? Because then that's just like that's no different than you being protected from the bullies. You have to learn how to deal with the bullies. I guess what I'm trying to show you is how these concepts really apply across all industries and all
Mhm.
areas of life. They're really universal. You kind of have to be like a philosopher, I guess.
But you're kind of a philosopher that is swimming around, or more like an antelope. Like you're jumping from one thing to another to third thing. So
So what did we learn today?
I learned that I don't have muscle for this. So my muscle doesn't exist. Like these kind of.
I wonder why. I don't understand what's so hard about it. How did you come up with the antelope analogy?
This was super easy because you for a philosopher they're kind of a they're boring. They're thinking in
Hmm.
concepts, nobody get them, so this is like stereotype
Hmm.
of philosopher. But I was thinking about like more smoother, like slalom, like skiing person. It's like so it's more of that. This is one idea, and the other is like you're jumping, so from one topic to another.
Hmm.
So so
I guess I was
anthropomorphic.
thinking philosophy because, like, you know that there's a philosophy, there's a major called philosophy, but there's also a class called philosophy and everything. There's music philosophy, there's probably like philosophy of psychology,
Yeah,
right? There's like philosophy of history, philosophy. There's philosophy of society. There's philosophy around everything.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay,
And I
yeah,
think it's because philosophy is like the kind of the structure that holds everything together. Do you know what I mean? And a
yeah,
lot of times, those philosophies in one thing applies to another philosophy in something else.
yeah. And then where do you have like some more prominent places where you pick up these universal examples?
I feel like the best ones are usually the ones I hear like in a book or some sort of an interview or something where somebody says something and I'm like, oh, that's so
Mm-hmm.
true. Maybe I should just write down all the universal examples that I know. Like I told you the one about how the viral one, how most things don't go viral through
Mm-hmm.
algorithm. They go viral because of people
Mm-hmm.
sharing it. Like, hey, did you check out this video or something like that? So that one makes sense to you, right?
Yeah.
Once I say it like that. But then like kind of it goes against what most people think. We think that things go viral because people are sharing it online and they're the algorithm and things like that. So that's one. Um, yeah, I mean that book had a lot of good ones. Like there's a cheesesteak place in Philadelphia, which is like the historical cheesesteak place, but nobody ever shares like that place on social media. But there's another like really fancy restaurant that sells like $100 cheesesteak, and that one gets shares like crazy because what people do is they go there, they pay $100 for a cheesesteak, and they take a picture of the cheesesteak, and they're like, "Oh, look, I paid $100 for this cheesesteak," right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually that like them showing off. They're not sharing it because
Yeah.
when you go to Elton John concert, you're not recording and sharing it because this music is so good, I want people to hear it. No, they can go listen to it on Spotify, much better quality. You're sharing it because you want people to envy you, right? It's for your own
Mm.
selfish reasons why you're sharing it, right? That's where I got the idea for the people don't share good content; they share what makes them look good. Yeah, so I feel like there's just tons and tons of universal examples like that, and I come up with new ones all the time. Like the Monopoly one was a new one. Like, do you think if you know all the universal examples, you'll be able to come up with myth true sandwiches easily?
I'm thinking about that right now. Will it be easier maybe to convert this kind of universal truth, if it's possible to connect with something that I relate to? Um,
Like, and sometimes like I see something interesting, and I don't even know if there's something that's a universal truth or not, but it feels
what
like
is
it could
that?
be. So,
Like,
for
what do
example,
you
remember
mean?
when I sent you that video of those three puppies
Mm-hmm.
that they're training?
Mm-hmm.
So that in itself is not a universal example, but I feel like there could be a universal example in there somewhere. Do you understand what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because when I realized when I was watching that video, and I'm like, oh, that's so interesting how it's so much easier to train a police dog if the dog has food drive. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that kind of led me to something about motivation. So I knew, like, I don't know exactly what the universal example is in there, but I know it's in there somewhere. Do you know what I mean? And usually it's because it has all the right elements. It's something that when you watch it, you're like, you can kind of understand why. You can kind of everything makes sense to you. Nothing is like out of the ordinary, right? Everything makes sense to you, so you agree
Yeah.
with it. And then two, it's like something interesting about it. There's something interesting there. Do you know what I mean? Another example is like I one of the things I noticed like recently from my dogs, because my new dog is very shy. My old dog, Paws, the Pomeranian, was so outgoing. Like you walk in the door, he's gonna run up to you and he's gonna try to jump on top of you, and he's gonna be super friendly, right? Like my dog right now is not like that. As soon as you walk in the door, she's gonna go in and hide, right? So it's like
Mm-hmm.
but the thing is, what happens is like my old dog is a lot like he's an extrovert. He's a lot like Gigi. He's very friendly, talk to anyone. He walks up to everyone, all the strangers. The new dog is kind of like me. She's an introvert. She doesn't talk to anyone. She just hides a lot. And I was thinking about how like sometimes I I love my new dog because when I need to leave the house, I can just leave her at home by herself, and she doesn't bark or try to chase me out the door. She just
Mm-hmm.
stays quiet by herself, and when I come home, she doesn't even act like she missed me or something like that. So it's like super convenient, because the dog is so
Yeah.
independent.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like I come home and I want my dog to come up to me and like be happy to see me, and you know what I mean. So I also miss that. sometimes. So it shows me like the pros and cons of those two different personality, and then also like it shows me exactly like how they differ, and in what cases one is good and one is bad, right?
Mhm.
So if
Mhm.
obviously if I'm at a networking party, it's much better to be like pause, just going up to strangers and like just making friends with everyone, right? But if I just want somebody to take care of something without bothering me 24/7, obviously I want somebody like Sky who's gonna disappear and do their job
Yeah.
and come back when it's done or something like that. So yeah, things like that. Like I I like to look at things. Uh, I like to look at situations or like situations, certain things that happen in society or certain things that happen in tribes, whether
Mhm.
it's animals or humans or whatever it is, like sociology. I like to look at the patterns that's happening in there and kind of be like, oh, that's interesting how these dogs tend to
Mhm.
be like this. These dogs tend to be like that. It's interesting how these animals are like that. These humans are like this. It's interesting how when somebody who lived in this country for a long time, they become like this.
Mhm.
And I think I have a natural curiosity for those things. So when I go on YouTube and I start watching these crazy weird videos, I can spend hours, one video after another video after another video.